It was a quiet afternoon in our peaceful suburban neighborhood when the unthinkable happened. My wife and I were just returning home after a long day when we were approached by a neighborhood security officer in a golf cart. It was a typical HOA, Homeowners Association, patrol, something we had grown accustomed to over the years. However, this time it was different. The officer, who looked like he had just been assigned the job, stepped out and suddenly pulled out his gun, aiming it directly at my wife. I watched in horror as he demanded that she step away from the car. The officer seemed tense, his hand trembling slightly as he gripped the gun. At first, I couldn't understand what was happening. What could have possibly triggered such a response in this seemingly harmless situation? I was ready to intervene, but my wife, calm as ever, stood her ground. It wasn't until she shifted her stance that the officer's face changed from suspicion to realization. What he didn't know, and what he couldn't have possibly guessed, was that my wife wasn't just an ordinary civilian. She wasn't someone to be easily intimidated. My wife had spent years in the military, serving as part of the elite Delta Force, and even though she was no longer active in the field, she was still highly trained and capable of handling herself in high-stress situations. When the officer realized that the woman standing before him wasn't just a helpless bystander, his grip on the gun loosened, and his demeanor shifted from aggression to shock. "You're Delta Force," the officer stammered, now looking at her with a mix of awe and fear. "You're still active." My wife, with the same cool composure that had gotten her through countless dangerous missions, simply nodded. There was no need for words. Her presence alone was enough to command respect, even in such an unusual and tense situation. The officer quickly apologized, visibly embarrassed by his overreaction. He had assumed she was a regular civilian who might pose a threat, but he had underestimated the woman standing in front of him. As the situation de-escalated, I couldn't help but feel proud of my wife's strength and composure. What could have been a dangerous confrontation turned into a moment of respect and understanding, all because my wife was trained to handle the unexpected with poise. It was a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and never judge someone by their looks or the neighborhood they live in. My wife had proven that day, once again, that even in the most unpredictable situations, she was always in control.